Lights will mirror mount and underneath your truck. You start wherever you want to as long as you name your parts. I have a system, I have a routine of how I deal with it. I start top to bottom. I just work my way down. Okay? Those lights up top, those amber lights, these lights, they're called clearance lights. When you track the clearance lights, they are securely mounted. They're not crack damaged, none are missing. They are amber in color. This is your mirror hood mount. That mirror hood mount, it is securely mounted. It's not crack damaged. That mirror is not crack damaged. It should be clear and clean. Headlights, those headlights, they're securely mounted. They're not crack damaged. They should be clear and clean. That bulb, that is your turn signal four-way hazard. That strip, that is your reflector. They're securely mounted. They're not crack damaged. They are amber in color. From there, underneath your truck. That truck, you want that truck to be sitting level. Okay? You don't want to see any puddles or leaks, and you don't want to see any obstruction. Okay? Lights, hood mount, headlights, turn signal four-way hazards, reflector. You want that truck level. You don't want to see any puddles or leaks. And you don't want to see any obstruction. Okay, from there, you're going to go under your hood. Okay, from there, I'll go under your hood. You start on right or left side, it doesn't matter what side you start on, as long as you cover your parts. On your right side, you're gonna count for 3 holes. Any 3 holes. Okay? On those holes, they are securely mounted. They're not frayed, worn, or leaking. Those clamps, they're also securely mounted. From there, you're gonna account for your alternator. This is your alternator. That is your alternator right there. That alternator is securely mounted. It's not cracked or damaged. The alternator wire, they're not frayed or worn. You see no exposed wire. That alternator belt, it is not frayed or worn. And on that belt, you should have no more than 3/4 inch tension on that belt. That alternator, it operates by that belt, so that alternator, it is belt driven. Okay? Different trucks have different components on different sides. From there you go into your turbo. This is called a turbo. That turbo is securely mounted. It's not cracked or damaged. Those clamps, they're also securely mounted. That turbo, I see no soot, which indicates leaks. That heat shield, those heat shields, they're also securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. From there, this is another heat shield. That heat shield is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. The last part of your exhaust system, your tailpipe, your exhaust pipe. That exhaust pipe, it is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. I see no signs of soot. Those clamps and brackets, they're also securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. That exhaust mount is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. I'm not missing any nuts or bolts. This is another heat shield. That heat shield, securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. This is your exhaust stack. That stack, it is also securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, and I see no excessive soot out the end of that pipe. Are there any questions? Okay? On this truck, my emergency equipment sit on this side. So I'm gonna cover that emergency equipment. The cargo door is not bent or damaged. That rubber seal is also not frayed or worn. Those hinges, they're securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. In this cargo area, I see my emergency equipment, which is a fire extinguisher. That fire extinguisher is securely mounted. It should have a rating of 10 BC, and it should be fully charged. Over here, I see my reflector triangle in that box. They're securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, and I should have at least 3. I should also carry extra fuses. Any questions? The service light, that is a service light. It's securely mounted. Now, crack damage, it is amber in color. Okay? Going to my left side. On the left side, I'm going to count for 3 hoses again. This is a hose. This is a hose down here. I can call any one of those a hose if I want to. I can even call this a hose. Okay? They're also securely mounted. They're not frayed, worn, or leaking. Okay? Anything with liquid or air pass through, it ain't leaking.
All right.
Okay? This is your coolant reservoir. That coolant reservoir is securely mounted. It's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. The fluid should be above the edge mark. That cap should be securely mounted. Okay? On this truck, this is your water pump. That's the water pump. That water pump, it is securely mounted. It's not cracked or damaged. It is not leaking. That belt is also securely mounted. It's not frayed, worn, and I should have no more than 3/4 inch tension on that belt. That water pump, it is belt driven.
All right.
Okay? You gotta tell them how it operates. This is your oil fill. This is your oil dipstick. That oil fill and that oil dipstick, they are securely mounted. They're not cracked, damaged, or leaking. If I remove that dipstick, I should have the proper oil level, and I should see no metal shaving. Okay? Back here, to the rear on this truck, that is your air compressor sitting back there. The air compressor, it is securely mounted. It's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. You see no belt, so that air compressor is gear driven. Underneath that air compressor is your power steering pump. That power steering pump, it is securely mounted. It's not cracked or damaged. It is not leaking. It's also gear driven. Once I start with my power steering, I'm going to conclude. I'm going to finish up on everything dealing with my steering. This is your steering shaft. That steering shaft, it is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. Those universal joints, they're also securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged. I see no obstructions or debris. And they should be properly greased. This is your power steering reservoir. That power steering reservoir, securely mounted. It's not cracked, damaged. The fluid should be above the edge mark. And it's not leaking. These hoses attached to that reservoir, they're also securely mounted. They're not frayed, worn, they're not leaking. Those clamps are securely mounted. Okay? I count on this side, you're gonna count for 6 hoses. 3 here and 3 here. Okay? This is your steering gearbox. The steering gearbox, it is securely mounted. It's not cracked, damaged, or leaking. The rest of my linkage is, this is called a pitman arm. This is a pitman arm. This is your drag link. If you see that metal piece right there, that is your steering knuckle. That metal piece running from tire to tire, that is your tie rod. They are securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. castle nuts. Those castle nuts and collar keys are also securely mounted. That rubber bushing is securely mounted. It's not frayed, worn, and it should be properly greased. That is all of my steering. From there, I'm going to my suspension. That piece right there, that is called a leaf mount. That leaf mount is securely mounted, front and rear. It is not bent or damaged. The leaf springs, these are leaf springs. That leaf spring, they're securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, or shifted. Those are your U-bolts. Those metal pieces right there, those are called bolts. They're also securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged. I'm not missing any bolts or nuts. Shock absorber. That shock absorber is securely mounted. It is not bent or damaged. I see no rust chills, no leaks. That little rubber grommet is also securely mounted. It's not frayed, worn, or missing. That is my entire suspension. From there I go to my brakes. This is my brake hose. That brake hose is securely mounted. It's not frayed, worn, or leaking. This is the brake chamber. That brake chamber and that clamp, they are securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. Push rod, that metal piece that goes into the brake chamber, that is called a push rod. That metal piece on the other end is called your slack adjuster. That push rod, that slack adjuster are securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. I'm not missing any pins or screws. But that push rod and slack adjuster, I should have no more than 1 inch of play when my brakes are released.
Should I pull on it?
No.
I'm doing expensive? All right.
You don't have to pull on it.
All right.
Okay. Inside there, inside my wheel hub, is my brake drum and brake liner. That brake drum is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged, and it's not worn thin. A brake liner is not excessively worn thin. I should see no excessive oil, grease, or dirt, and I should have no less than a 1/4 inch of thickness on those liners. Going to my tires. My tires. I should see no ABCs, which stand for abrasion, bubbles, or cuts. My tires should be worn evenly. My thread depth should be no less than 4/32 of an inch. My rims, those rims should be pressed against my tires, in and out. Those rims should not be bent, damaged. I should see no wells, spider webs, or cracks. Lug nuts, those lug nuts are securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, and none are missing. I should see no bore holes from being over tightened. I should see no rust trails and no metal shaving. Hub seal, that hub seal is securely mounted, not crack, damaged, or leaking. The valve stem and cap, they are securely mounted. They're not cracked, damaged, or leaking. If I had a tire pressure gauge, my tire pressure should be between 105 and 110. Another service light. Service light, securely mounted, not cracked, damaged. It is amber in color. The door, this door is not bent or damaged. The door handle is not bent or damaged. It should open and secure my door. Inside my door, door hinges, those door hinges, they're securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, or not missing any nuts or bolts. The seal, in and out, it's not frayed, worn, no missing pieces. A door mirror mount, that door mirror mount, it is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. That mirror is not cracked, damaged. It should be clear and clean. My door steps, they're securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, and they should support my weight. The DEF tank and fuel tank, they're securely mounted. They're not cracked, damaged, or leaking. Those brackets and straps, they are also securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, and none are missing. That rubber seal is also intact. It's not frayed, worn. I'm not missing any pieces. Any questions?
What you said this over here?
DEF tank.
What the?
That's a DEF. That's an additive for your fuel tank, for your fuel. It's an additive. Supposed to help that fuel burn cleanly. Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions so far? All right. The caps. Those caps on those fuel tanks, they're securely mounted. They're not bit, damaged, or missing. Inside that metal cap, I should have a rubber bushing and also a metal chain. Fuel lines and sensor wire. The fuel lines, they're securely mounted. They're not frayed, worn, or leaking. The sensor wiring is not frayed, worn. I see no exposed wiring. Moving to the back of my truck. My tractor wall. That tractor wall is not bit, damaged. I'm not missing any rivets. Air lines and electrical lines. They are securely mounted from that tractor to that trailer. The air line, electrical lines, they're not excessively tangled. They're not dragging on anything metal. The air lines, they're not frayed, worn, or leaking. The electrical line, not frayed, worn. I see no exposed wiring. Glad hands, these glad hands, and that rubber grounder inside there. They're securely mounted. The glad hands are not bent or damaged. The glad hands and that rubber grounder, they're not leaking. The electrical pigtail, I see no obstructions or debris. Inside that electrical box, I have prongs. Those prongs, they're not bit, damaged, and none are missing. Catwalk and catwalk steps, they're securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. I see no obstructions or debris. They should support my weight. My tractor frame and cross member. Tractor frame is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. That cross member, they're not bent or damaged. Looking inside, in between, you see your drive shaft and your universal joint. That drive shaft is securely mounted, not bent, damaged, or twisted. Universal joints are not bent, damaged, they're not twisted. I see no obstruction or debris, and they should be properly greased. Any questions? Okay. From there, my trailer, my header board for the trailer. This is called a header board. The header board is not bent, damaged. I'm not missing any rivets. Up top, you have clearance lights. Those clearance lights, they're also securely mounted. They're not crack damaged, and they are amber in color. My trailer sidewall, I see no bulges, no holes. I'm not missing any rivets. A DOT reflector tape. That reflector tape is securely mounted. It's not frayed, worn. I'm not missing any pieces. It should be red and white or red and silver in color. My trailer frame. That frame, securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, or twisted. Okay? The one thing you need to get in sequence with. Every time you get around tires, you think of three things that you're going to cover. Your brake system, your suspension system, and the tire. Okay? You're going to do it 3 times. There, and back there. It's all the same. Get around those tires, look for your brake system, cover your suspension system, and cover your tires. Okay? Now, my brake system. Inside here you'll see your brake holders again. It's repetitive. Brake holders, they're not frayed, worn, or leaking. Brake chamber and clamp. That brake chamber and clamp, securely mounted. Now bent or damaged. Behind that, again, is your push rod and slack adjuster. That push rod, that slack adjuster, is securely mounted. Now bent, damaged, I'm not missing any pins or screws. On that push rod and that slack adjuster, I should have no more than 1 inch of play when my brakes are released. Inside of that is my brake drum and my brake lining. That brake drum is securely mounted, not bent or damaged or worn thin. My brake liners are not dangerously worn thin or worn thin. I should see no excessive oil, grease, or dirt, and I should have no less than a 1/4 inch of thickness on those liners. Okay? Suspension. Leaf mount securely mounted, not bent or damaged. The leaf springs, they're also securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, or shifted. U-bolts, they're securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged. I'm not missing any bolts or nuts. You got a question or you just over here? Okay. Shock absorber. Shock absorber is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. I see no rust trails, no leaks. Airbag. I have to add one thing to this trailer. I didn't have an airbag up there, but I have an airbag here. That's your airbag right there. You gotta count for the airbag mount, that metal piece that attaches to the frame. That is the airbag mount. It's securely mounted. Not bent or damaged. I'm not missing any nuts or bolts. The airbag itself is not frayed, worn, or leaking. That metal piece down there that's called a bell housing. That bell housing is not bent or damaged, and underneath, what holds that bell housing in place is called a platform. That platform is also securely mounted. It is not bent, damaged. I'm not missing any nuts or bolts. Okay? Back to my tires. My tire walls, I see no ABCs, abrasion, bubbles, or cuts. My tires should be worn evenly. The thread depth should be no less than 2/32 of an inch. That spacing between those tires is called a buzz space. In that, what you're looking for, you want those rims to be flushed together. In between those tires, you don't want to see any obstruction or debris, and you don't want those tires touching. Back to the rims again. Our rims should be flushed against my tires in and out. Those rims should not be bent or damaged, and I should see no welds, no spider webs, or cracks. Lug nuts, they're securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, none are missing. I should see no bore holes, rust seals, or metal shaving. Huff seal or axle seal, securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, it is not leaking. Valve stem and cap, securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, that valve stem and that cap is not leaking. If I had a tire pressure gauge, my tire pressure should read between 105 and 110. Now the one thing here, gentlemen, if you cover a set of brake, suspension, and tires in one area, you don't have to repeat it a second time. Okay, you only do it once. That goes for both of them. Okay? If I cover my brakes here, my suspension there, my tires here, it doesn't matter. Okay, as long as I cover those items in this area. Okay? Question. All right. From there, because I'm walking by it, I'm going to cover my coupling system. My coupling system takes in, these are called your mounting bolts. That's your fifth wheel mounting bolts. They are securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, none are missing. This is your platform. That's your fifth wheel platform. That piece right there, that's the platform. It is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. This is a slide. This is your fifth wheel slide. That fifth wheel slide is securely mounted. Not bent, damaged. That pin is also securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, and it should be in the lock position. The pivot pin, that pin sitting there, that's called a pivot pin. That pivot pin is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, or missing. This is your fifth wheel release arm. That release arm is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. It should be in the lock or secure position. This is your airline for that fifth wheel slide. They're also securely mounted. They're not frayed, worn, or leaking. This is your fifth wheel plate. That is the plate. That plate is securely mounted, not bent, damaged, and it should be properly greased. This is your trailer apron. That trailer apron is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged, and I should see no spacing between that plate and that apron. Okay? Now, I have two more items to cover on my fifth wheel, but I have to be underneath that truck to cover because you have to be looking at it and pointing at it to describe it. You cannot narrate this thing. You can't stand out here and tell me about that kingpin and that lockjaw if you can't see it.
You can go there with a flashlight.
You can go there with a flashlight if you want to. That's up to you. Okay. All right. Since I'm walking back, I'm gonna cover my splash guard and the splash guard mount. This is a splash guard mount. That splash guard mount is securely mounted. It's not bent or damaged. I'm not missing any nuts or bolts. The splash guard itself is not ripped, torn, or missing. The DOT reflector tape is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. It should be red and white or red and silver in color. Now, I'm going underneath my truck to get that fifth, get that kingpin and that lockjaw. Look forward towards you. Fifth wheel in that recess in there, that is your kingpin. That metal piece that goes up and down. That is your kingpin and shank. That kingpin and shank is securely mounted. It's not bit, damaged. That piece goes across, that is the lockjaw. That lockjaw is securely mounted. Not bit, damaged, and it should be in a locked position. This metal piece right here, that is called a torque arm. That torque arm is securely mounted. It's not bent, damaged. That rubber grommet is also securely mounted. It's not frayed, worn, or missing. My tractor lights. The tractor lights, they're securely mounted. They're not cracked, damaged. They are red and clear in color. Any questions? Because I'm old and I'm holding on to it. This is your landing gear. That landing gear is securely mounted, not bent or damaged. Our landing gear legs and platform, they're also securely mounted. They're not bent or damaged, and they should be in an upright position. Any questions? Before I come out, I'm gonna cover my chiller floor. On that floor, I see no boulders, no holes. These metal pieces going from side to side, these are called cross members. Those cross members, they're securely mounted. They're not bent, damaged, and none are missing. Okay? Excuse me a minute, John. What's going on, Mr. Rob?